right, we're live.
We're going.
We're going. We're sitting down today with the man himself, the man from down under, our brother Marcus Deegan. Marcus, appreciate you giving us some time, man. It's 10 p.m.
Hey.
So I appreciate you giving some time.
Yeah, I was falling asleep on the couch there. My missus had some movie on. I was fucking getting heavy. Started falling asleep, and then had the alarm set for 5 to 10, and then here we are.
You're a legend, man. We appreciate you giving us some time.
And it's roasting over here. It's absolutely. It was 45 here today, and it's just going to get hotter.
True.
Oh.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
It's the opposite here, man. It's just been freezing nonstop. Like, it's actually been needing jumpers in Australia. It's ridiculous. I didn't sign up for this.
Where are you guys in Australia?
Brizzy for me.
I'm in the Goldie.
Okay, yep. So I went to school in Brisbane, and then I kind of lived on the Gold Coast before I ventured overseas. I'm a Gold Coast boy.
Man, good man. That's actually. I just wanted to ask you that straight up. Is how did you get going in the States? Because I know it's not. I've seen you've been there for a little while. So how did you sort of make the move over there? What was the reason, and why did you go over?
So the job that I used to have, I used to be the host and MC for a show called Manpower or Thunder from Down Under. It's called over here.
Yeah. I know a couple.
So I spent the first from maybe 97 till 2001 touring around the world, and then we got a residency here in Las Vegas, and so I moved here permanently in 2002. And I've been here ever since. And then I just retired from those guys just before the pandemic.
Yeah.
And then that's when I started up the podcast.
Yeah. So how did the podcast come about? Because obviously you got to be a fan and know what's going on. Like we started this just before or just during the pandemic because we were talking all the time over Messenger, and fights would be coming up on the weekend, and we'd be sitting there having long conversations about who we thought our analysis, and I'm like, well, why don't we just make a pot? Like, if no one listens, it doesn't matter, but we may as well do something with it. So, what was kind of the reason behind you getting your stuff?
So I used to do a bit of body double work for Conor. So
you look like him.
So kind of through doing that, and then is when I started meeting everybody. So I started meeting all the coaches, and I would dress up and do my thing, go to all the fights and the weigh-ins, and people would think, look at this fucking dickhead, but we'll get a photo with him anyway. But, you know what I mean? So it was kind of that thing. But during the process of that is kind of how I sort of became friends with Conor. But in that process, I started getting to know everybody else. Then during the pandemic, I'm just sitting here just thinking, and it was actually my mate of mine, and he said, hey, why don't you just reach out to a few of the people that you've met that follow you on Instagram and ask me if you can do a quick 10-minute interview. And it kind of went from that. And then in the first 4 weeks, I'd shot 30 episodes, and then we end up moving into the studio. We end up moving up into the studio, and we do a little bit of out on the field stuff. But it kind of, I didn't even really know what I wanted to do with it, to be honest with you. But it's kind of took a little bit of a life of its own. And then I hit the skids about a year ago for a minute, but I'm kind of back on track now.
Yeah, no, for sure. So, look, I wanted to ask you, and you kind of talked about it there, how you used to do a bit of, body work for Conor and all that. But how did you first get into MMA? Were you a fan of the sport before you had met Conor for that work? And if so, what kind of got you into following the sport?
So, as a kid, it was always Muhammad Ali, Bruce Lee. Then it progressed to Rocky movies and any kind of fighting movies. And then I did karate when, I was about 12, so I was 16. And then it wasn't until I kind of really moved over to America is when I really, really started getting into the mixed martial arts scene, because I got to go to one here. I think it was UFC 56. It was Chuck Liddell and Randy Couture 2. Yep. It was the first one I went to. I remember it because I sat right behind Pamela Anderson and Cindy Crawford. They were off their heads, but I was so happy to sitting behind them. And I kind of really got interested in it from there, and then just became a fan, just like everyone, just a fan of the sport that gets to live. Because I'm here in Vegas, I could go to everything. You know what I mean? I was like, everything's like 10 minutes down the road from my house. So I'm like, I want to try and incorporate this into maybe trying to do some work with it. So
I suppose
that's kind of where I'm at right now. Yeah,
I suppose that's good. I mean, Vegas would be the prime spot because you got guys like Extreme Couture and Nixick and all those boys down there just around the corner, and one of the biggest gyms in the world.
Yeah, well, Eric Nixick's been on the podcast before, and his gym is literally right down the road from my studio. So I introduced him to the Australian meat pies, and I sent some pie. Yeah. Well, I got a mate of mine over here that has a meat pie company, and so he makes all the Aussie meat pies. Yeah. And so I took him a bunch, and he loved them. So I know all those guys, and everything's a small knit, very, very small knit community here in Vegas. Kind of like the Gold Coast a little bit, really.
That's cool. I like that.
That's funny you say that, because I have always described the Gold Coast as just the Las Vegas of Queensland. That's basically what it is. So out of curiosity then, being in Vegas, which it is the fight capital of the world, when there is a big fight going down in Vegas, whether that is a Conor fight or a John Jones fight, can you kind of almost feel it in the air, in the atmosphere of the city when there is a big fight going down in Vegas?
Oh, 100%. And you touched on Conor, and his name always gets thrown around whenever you're talking about mixed martial arts. But when he is here and when the Irish are in town, it's a completely different feeling in the air. I always say it. The atmosphere is for that, and it's not just for fight day; it's for that whole week. Do you know what I mean? It's just the atmosphere is just, and then being able to go to the T-Mobile and being face to face with all the fans and watching the weigh-ins. It's just. Once again, Conor, he had 12,000 people at the weigh-in.
That's nuts.
You know what I mean? Like, it's
No, I was just going to say, like, when I watch it at home, I'm watching it at home, and whenever he fights, I'll pay any amount of money to watch him fight. I don't care how much it costs. I will watch any fight he is in. Whether he fights a trash can, I'll watch it. But when his music hits and there's that, and then you just, and I'll sit there and watch the whole song until the Notorious hits, and it gives you goosebumps. You're just like, it's a whole other thing, and it's like, for our generation, my generation, like no, we didn't have anyone like him that's coming, and he's a once in a lifetime guy,
And the thing is that the feeling that you got at home is the feeling that you get when you're there. Maybe fucking tenfolds, because I'm always just so it's such a great experience, and I'm blessed to have been to pretty much all of Conor's fights except the one over in Ireland, one in Abu Dhabi. But I've been fortunate to go to all of them. But Vegas is such a fight town that just when there's a big fight on, it's just, you can definitely feel it, and it's just a great place to be. It's too fucking hot to go outside at the moment, but apart from that, it's great. We just had International Fight Week here.
How was that?
We just, it was good. There's a lot of fans. MMA fans are fucking crazy, as you guys know. They're very opinionated. They think they know everything. So there was a lot of them here, but it was a great fight card. Our boy Alexander Volkanovski came through. I kind of knew that he was doing that. Max Holloway didn't look right to me. I didn't think.
Yeah, I think he looked a little bit off from the get-go.
Yeah, there was something off there. I wasn't really sure what it was, but I think that now that Alex has accomplished pretty much everything he can do in the 145 division, I think it's time for him maybe to bump it up to 155. Because as you know, he went back in his old rugby league career, he was up over 200 plus pounds.
Oh, he was a big boy.
So for him he was a big boy. So I think for him to be able to fight at that weight class 155, maybe even a little more comfortable than 145. But you know what I mean? He did what Conor did. He went down to 145 and just fucking smashed everyone in that division. And then when that's all done, you move up. So that'll be interesting to see.
Yeah, I was so happy for him, seeing him win. Like I'm such a Volk fan. Like he's Greek, I'm a Wog. Like I back him to the cows come home. And then I just, it's hard for me to get around the conversation of him sticking at 145. I mean, you could have a guy like Josh Emmett or Yair Rodriguez if Yair wins, or maybe an Ortega rematch. But I'm just more interested now in him going to 155, which also throws its banner in the guys at 155. It was always sort of set on Charles and Islam, which I think probably will happen next. But that's what I agree. I'm really interested in how he's saying winner is the best.
But it's always good when you see one of your favourite fighters do something, when they go up to a different division. I mean, I love that. I love it when people take that risk. it adds more excitement to the sport.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I think people going up in weight classes and like Izzy did, like Conor did, you know, I think it's great for the sport.
Yeah, for sure. Kind of talking about Alexander Volkanovski, and then also we were just talking about Conor. We, Josh and myself have talked about, why do you think the Australian fans don't get behind their guys as much as, especially the Brits? The Brits really get behind their guys. We saw the Irish did it with Conor. So why do you think maybe that the Australians don't get behind, you know, our Aussies fighting in the UFC as much as maybe other countries support their fighters?
It's typical of the Australian way. It's called the tall poppy syndrome. People don't like people in Australia don't like other people to be successful. So I think maybe the Australians kind of get a little bit, you know how Australians don't really give a fuck about anything. They're like, I'm not going to wear his T-shirt. I feel like a fucking idiot. You know what I mean? Who's that guy running around Vegas fucking thinking he's Conor? What a fuck. You know? That's how Aussies are, mate. That's how Aussies are, and that's how they've always been. And it's unfortunate, but you know, they don't really like. If they don't support him in Australia, they definitely don't like him over here because he gets booed every time he fights. But hey. I think he's.
Anyway, you go.
Yeah, no, I think he's great for the sport, and I love the guy. I think he's a great guy, and he's got that typical fucking Western suburbs wog. Mate, you know that Macedonian Greek voice, mate? I'm telling you. You know.
I love that. If they come back, because I really hope they come back at the start of next year. Like,
I think it's Perth they're targeting, yeah.
Well, I think they could put on from the card they put on 3-4 years ago or 2 years ago at this point to what they could put on now. I think, how could you not? You got a guy like Volk, you got Tuivasa, who's a massive star now, way bigger than he ever was.
Do you think he's bigger than Volkanovski over there?
In Australia?
Yeah, in Australia.
In terms, I'd say casual popularity. Yeah.
I would say because of the shoey. Like, I think a lot of guys, like, when Thai fights and, you know, they at the pub and everyone's on the piss and, you know, people love to see him fight. I just think, I don't know. I love Volk more than anyone. I'll say it right now. I love Volk. But I think the card they could put on would be astronomical. I mean, you could have Whitaker on there. You could have Volk. You could have Tuivasa. You got Casey O'Neill, Matthews, Malaki. There's no. Yeah,
I think Casey O'Neill's out. I think Casey O'Neill's out with the
a little bit. Yeah. So if she makes it back, that'd be cool. But there's so many names. Like we're starting to come up with a lot more talent in the UFC, and, you know, populating, and guys that are not just guys that are just sitting in the prelims, but guys that are making a name for themselves. You know.
Did you see Malaki's fight on the weekend? He did great. Yeah, really great. I really liked.
That was a close fight. That was a really close fight between him and Johnson. I'm an Aussie. I would have called it a draw. I probably would have called it a draw. It was a very close fight. But, you know, I think as Josh was saying, I think we're really starting to see the level of Australian mixed martial artists just kind of across the board get better. So instead of having, you know, one guy that's top tier or two guys that are top tier, we're now having, you know, a lot of guys climbing the rankings. You know, Kai Kara France has got an interim coming up against Brandon Marino. Fights out in New Zealand, but basically we've got to take what we can get with our boys.
That was going to be my question. Is there still the rivalry with the Kiwis and the Aussies? Like,
it's Anzacs, mate. We're the Anzacs storming the beaches over there. We got to go together. It is what it is.
Yeah, I know. Yeah. You know how there's always fucking Kiwis. You know that one?
Yeah. Well,
I know a few of them over here, fucking Kiwis.
I think even a few years ago when you had like Riddell versus Malaki at 243, that was amazing. That was when I first saw Malaki. That was a big fight. But even then, that was a very Kiwi versus Australia dominated card. I think, you know, you had Israel and Whitaker and Malaki. But now it feels like, I don't know, you got Volk training with City Kickboxing, who has this, you know, they've all got the same nutritionist, all with Jordan Sullivan. Shout out to the fight dietitian, but they're all with him. So they're all sort of like banding together almost, you know, and you see like Jake Matthews, you know, Izzy's watching Jake Matthews and he's cheering him on. So it's kind of like, I don't know, it's like the Anzacs all together.
Yeah, no, that's good. That's fair enough. Well, no. So so Israel Adesanya, are you guys fans of that guy, or does he? And what was your opinion on the fight?
Technically, I'm a huge
bro.
fan. Huge fan. Technically, I think what he can do in the striking is very unique currently to the middleweight division. Bar maybe Alex Pereira just coming up, but I think Izzy does some really unique things. In terms of the fight, I can appreciate the performance. I don't have too much of an issue with it. I think where he let himself, I don't want to say let himself down, maybe where he set the expectation was he said, this is my Anderson Silva, Forrest Griffin moment. This is where I'm going to show I'm better than, the other guy. I'm going to put him out pretty easily. I think that's maybe kind of why a few people are maybe a bit salty on the performance is he set that expectation. But as a fight fan, I am a huge fan of what he can do technically. I can admit though, from a casual perspective, he's not the most exciting champion.
You're right. But don't you think when you're coming up against people like Cannonier and you're holding that championship belt, it's a little bit more risky for you to go in there and start showboating like it? You know what 100%. I mean? So do you think he's a bit more guarded now just because he's in that position? Like
there's more to lose.
Jared Cannonier can fucking do damage. You know what I mean?
Oh,
he he's knocked him out. He really, really could have. So but no, I always wonder what people's opinion are in Australia of Izzy. So yeah,
I got friends of mine, and they're sort of more on the casual side. And if we go to watch the fight at a pub or wherever, they're sort of on the side of fuck, Izzy's boring. It's gonna be 5 round fight and 5 round decision. Yeah. And like from a casual perspective, I'm like, all right, if you tune in once a month to watch the UFC and you want to see carnage and you pay, go to the pub to watch the fights, I can understand why that would piss you off. But I mean, I love seeing him fight because it's a chess match. It's like watching a chess match, and he's the best chess player in the UFC. No one can beat him. And you have guys like Cannonier and Costa and Whittaker. Whittaker's tried twice, and Whittaker's one of the best in the world, and he can't get it. Costa was touted as this big destroyer, and he's going to destroy him. And even at the time, I thought, shit, maybe Costa might get him, and he just melted Costa, so that he has the
he made Costa look like an amateur.
Yeah, so I don't personally hate Izzy or get the hate. I think if it's anything, these guys that he's fighting, like everyone's saying, these guys that he's fighting, like why aren't we giving hate to Jared Cannonier? He's copped nothing. You know what I mean? Right. Jared Cannonier is just as equally to blame, maybe is Izzy if you want to blame someone. But I don't know. That's my take on it. But yeah, I'm definitely a fan. Do you think anyone in the UFC at the moment is being overlooked? In terms of top tier fighters?
I think Ian Gary's being a little bit overlooked. He's a young Irishman that's coming fighting out of. I don't think it is SBG. Maybe it is. I'm not
ATT. I think he's at.
Okay, yeah, I didn't think. Yeah, I really enjoyed his performance last week. Who else do I think's been overlooked in the UFC? I think Terrence T-Rex has kind of been overlooked a little bit. Yeah, now of course he did get beat by Drew Dober, but only just. He fucking had him. He had him at the beginning of that fight. You know what I mean? So I'd like to see a little bit more of him, and I think he's a great personality. He's got a good story, and fucking he had the quickest knockout in UFC history.
Yeah, 9 seconds over Matt Favola, I think.
7 seconds.
Yeah. So I mean, the fighter I personally think's been overlooked the most is Ilia Topuria. I really think Ilia Topuria is a problem in his division. He can.
I want him to get in there with Paddy the Batty.
Yeah, that'd be a great fight. And just off the top of my head, I'd edge it to Ilia. Just off the top of my head, early days prediction. I think Ilia Topuria is so good. He's so good.
And Paddy likes to fight with his chin out. I think he's a little. I think maybe I don't know. Let's see how he goes with these people that are a little bit more top level in the UFC. It's a different ball game when you start getting in the top 15, top 10. You know what I mean? There's no playing around there. So let's see how he goes. I mean, I don't mind the guy. I don't think the weight fluctuation and then the dropping just before the fight is healthy, good. To me, it kind of shows a little bit of weakness. Yep. You know what I mean? Like if you're a serious athlete, you kind of, obviously you have your off season, but you're reasonably in shape all year round. You know what I mean? I mean, once again, back to Conor. Look at fucking Conor at the moment, just coming off a vicious injury that most people don't come back from. I mean, look at Chris Weidman. You know what I mean? It's taking him ages to come still out. Connor's just come back. He was kicking the bag a couple of weeks ago. I don't know if you guys saw that footage.
Yeah.
Kicking the bag. Just so fucking, it's, I
don't understand the hate on Conor either. I mean, I get Conor's, there's been things in the past and all that sort of stuff, but when it comes to him fighting and the UFC and training, he's a madman. Like he literally just goes ball to the wall. As soon as that injury happened, he's doing rehab. He's doing what he can to get back, and he's doing it quicker than anyone. I mean, granted, he can get the best doctors in the world, but so he could use that money and retire. He doesn't need to fight, but he still.
But see, I think you've just touched on it though. Is I think so much of it is just the jealousy of the fact he's in the position where he doesn't have to fight, but he chooses to fight, or he chooses to still train this hard. He chooses to still rehab. He doesn't have to. And I think the fact that he chooses to, even though he has all this money, maybe rubs some people the wrong way.
Yeah.
Well, obviously, it definitely does. But you know the thing about Conor that's so fucking awesome about Conor is all that hate and all that negativity and all that bullshit that gets flying around. Conor does not give a fuck. He could not, bro. He could not care less one single bit what anyone says, and that's what I love about him. He does not give a fuck what anyone says.
Oh man, if I had a watch with rotating diamonds, I'm not caring what some dude on the internet saying either. I don't care at that point. Yeah,
yeah, exactly. So you know what I mean. People have a problem with it, and I mean, look who's calling Conor out at the moment. Fucking everyone. You got Charles Oliveira, Michael Chandler. You've got Fizzy from last week was having a little bit of a go. You know what I mean? It's everyone wants that red panty night. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Jake Paul wants to get in there.
God.
You gotta. If Conor could lose another 5 times and still be the biggest draw in the UFC. That's what people don't understand about Conor. He really, well, maybe not 5, but you know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
it doesn't matter that he hasn't fought. It doesn't matter that he hasn't won a few fights because he's Conor fucking McGregor. You know what I mean? He's still on the. What is he ranked now?
I think he's like. I think I saw the other day he was
12. Is it 12?
Yeah, 10 or 11 or 12, something like that. But that doesn't. Like, I see that and I'm like, oh, that doesn't. He literally rankings do not apply.
Yeah, we just saw Alex Pereira fight Sean Strickland, and neither of them are megastars even. So rankings for some people at least doesn't mean anything. For Conor, I think Conor, even if they removed Conor from the rankings, he could come back and he can fight whoever.
It wouldn't matter.
Yeah,
which is awesome.
Definitely.
But look, Marcus, I know it's late, man. I know it's. I know you're getting tired, so I don't want to keep you too long. I just want to just say thank you for coming on. We really appreciate it. You know, you've been a good guy to us and really helped us out.
Listen, if there's anything I can do to help you guys out with what you guys are doing, as far as you know, if I can help you to talk to any guests, if I can send any guests your way, you just let me know, mate. I'm always out. Look, I'm always out to helping out anyone I can. You know, it's a small. It's a fucking hard industry to crack into this podcasting, and it's not about how much you know. It's about fucking the people that you know. And so, if there's anything I can do to help you guys out, man, I'd be fucking more than happy to do that for sure.
We really appreciate that, bro. Really appreciate it, man. Look, we'll let you go, but thank you again, man.
Thanks.
We'll talk soon. Thanks, guys. Thanks, boys.
Cheers, man.